Hello everybody, Tyler here. I debated Athene on livestream yesterday. I'm sure some of you watched it. And I'm making a follow-up video, and something Athene said at the end of the debate was incorrect. He said that he had the harder job defending Athenism, and he promptly afterward told me I was crushed, of course. I don't think that's correct. I went into the debate with essentially no idea what he actually believed. I had only read about Athenism for about 4 minutes before being dragged into the channel. So this is my follow-up where I've kind of collected my thoughts. And real briefly, I'm just going to lay out the issues with Athenism. So number one, and the most glaring issue to me, is the fact that there is no reason to believe that our purpose as humans is the same purpose as the cells in our body. And he kept telling me this during the debate. You just don't know what you are, Tyler. You know the white blood cells in your body, they're keeping you alive. They have a purpose. Therefore, you have a purpose. But of course, this is a very basic problem in philosophy, and I believe is actually the reason that his video got laughed out of the Reddit philosophy subreddit, and that's because anybody who's studied philosophy from any of the world's major philosophers would know that Hume tackled this problem extensively. Hume's guillotine, the is-ought problem. You cannot derive an ought from an is. Or in other words, you cannot say because white blood cells do this, that means we ought to do that. And you can sit here all day following the same thought process that Athene has, and you can come to all sorts of crazy conclusions, some that aren't so crazy but are still incorrect, such as the issue of eating meat. Well, because humans evolved quickly and better by eating meat, that means we ought to continue to eat meat, right? That makes just as much sense. And yet, of course, now we're having science that's coming out that's saying maybe eating meat isn't as healthy for you as eating a purely plant-based diet. So, and I could go on and on about this is-ought, but it's a glaring issue. Why should we believe that our purpose is the same as the purpose of the cells in our body? Why should we believe that the purpose of a screw in a machine is the same as the purpose of the machine, right? If you've got an auto factory, that machine makes cars, but that screw holds the machine together. Why can't the blood cells hold our body together, but we do something completely different? So I don't think that he's successfully addressed this issue of purpose, and I think that's a big factor in his shtick about why you should consider making logic your core value. Now, the second issue is most of the components of his philosophy are completely unoriginal. And I really tried to push back at this during the debate. I would ask him, are you a utilitarian? And he would say, no, I'm not. But he never really addressed this. And I am led to believe at this point that he is a utilitarian who's just trying to hide it from us because he realizes his philosophy is just souped up utilitarianism, fancified utilitarianism. He's essentially renamed the greater good as the superorganism. And keep in mind, guys, that's crucial. If he didn't rename it, he couldn't call himself the smartest man in the world. He would just be a copycat. You can also see he's a utilitarian by how he addresses people who disagree with him. I mean, if you watch his live stream for any short amount of time, you will see him asking somebody, but what good have you done for the world? What have you done? What are you doing? Right? He's constantly in this ego battle. And it's a good thing for the world if you are a utilitarian to care about how much you're doing. And I think this is further evidence that he's quite clearly a utilitarian, which of course would undermine the originality of his philosophy, and I think he knows that. I think that's why he seems to deny it, although he doesn't seem to be capable of admitting that. So now let's talk about clicking. So the idea behind clicking is essentially just ridiculous because it implies that we don't already use logic as a core value. So he says, you need to click, which you do by accepting logic as the everything, the creator. But we already do that. We already use logic in every single decision we make. The issue at hand really isn't our ability to use logic so much as our ability to discover what is actually true and to question facts. Right? Most of the time, the issue is rooted in the premises that we use when we complete logical processes. And I brought this up. I said, what about Hitler? Do you think Hitler was logical? And he said, no, Hitler's not logical. But then, of course, he didn't elaborate. But I think you could very easily make an argument that Hitler was logical given what he believed to be true. Now, we don't know exactly why Hitler believed that Aryans were the superior race. But if you could put yourself in a state of mind where you just know for a fact, maybe through divine revelation, maybe voices in your head that you're convinced are not a hallucination, that the Aryan race is superior, then it is completely logical for you to try and exterminate everybody else. And this is where we really see the bounds of logic. We live in a world where people will never be able to verify every assumption they make with any degree of certainty, and quite frankly, nobody wants to. But if we want to get closer to living in the world that Athene wants, we need to focus on the information that we're inputting into these logical processes. People need to recognize that they need to question the things they are being told. Right? They need to actually figure out what is true if they want to reach true conclusions. Right? Because your conclusion can be logical and false. That is completely possible. And I think that illustrates why saying you need logic as your core value doesn't really address the problem of people reaching conclusions that don't benefit others. I think there's one final point I want to make here, which is Athene's unoriginal and also in some cases illogical philosophy can be much easier described by the good science we currently have. Right? We actually know why people enjoy helping others. And it's not because they've been programmed to help a superorganism. It's because people who participated well in the group, evolutionarily speaking, were more likely to pass along their genes. And so certain parts of the brain, the reward center, benefits when you help others. Right? This is a very simple explanation, not some new age mystical conclusion that you are just a cell to the superorganism. Guys, you have to keep in mind, if the smartest person in the world were to appear in front of you, they probably wouldn't need to keep telling you, I'm the smartest person in the world. Somebody who does that is probably trying to convince themselves just as much as they're trying to convince you. And the last word, the click, guys, it's a placebo effect. Okay? And I don't mean this in the sense that you're ignorant, that you didn't know that, because it happens to everybody. Right? If you delve into philosophy, you will experience this click over and over, because philosophy is magical. When you read a good piece of philosophy and you understand it, you literally look at the world differently. And that does give you that feeling of euphoria. But if you really want to click at a deeper level, I would suggest you read people like Seneca, like Plato, like Nietzsche, like Watts. He has great. They also upload videos of his on YouTube. or like Montaigne, right? These people. Don't waste your time on shoddy philosophy. And please don't fall for this marketing scam about the click. Okay? There's a difference between Athene and these philosophers. Athene is trying to promise you something. He doesn't want his work to be judged based purely on its merits. He wants to sell you a feeling. Okay? These people never did that. Don't fall for it, guys.